Hello everybody and welcome to today's video where we're going to be breaking down the technique of the Dutch women's quad, talking about what they do well, and then more interesting as always, trying to find some things that they don't necessarily do perfectly, but despite that still go super quickly. So as always, we'll be breaking it down in a way that's hopefully simple, you can understand it, it becomes actionable so that you can bring these changes into the boat. As always, my name's Jack Burns. I'm the founder and head coach of Edge Rowing, where we work with busy professionals over the age of 40. But let's get into the video. So, first off, the interesting thing I think about Henley Royal Regatta is that you're dealing with so many other variables. You're dealing with, the boats that go up and down the course here. You're dealing with wash, you're dealing with the booms, steering. It's much harder to stay in line. And what it does is it just, even in the best crews in the world, which this crew is, starts to show kinks in the armor. So we kind of joke around. There's some element of truth to it, but when our athletes send us their footage for us to review, they're like, oh, I didn't want to send you this stuff because it wasn't my best rowing. It's like, no, we actually want to see people's worst rowing because it's easier to criticize. It shows the kinks in the armor a little bit more, and then it just obviously makes the coach's job a lot easier as well. But anyways, for me, the first things that these women do well is actually maybe you want to go to the World Cup footage because this is them in flatter conditions, more of a standard race. Oh, I was trying to click the wrong play button. It's from the screen recording. Really, really nice. That kind of what would seem to be the Dutch style. Very loose, very simple, very clean, very effortless looking. The boat is just running super, super flat. And I want to get into kind of why they're able to do that. What do they do that allows them to row in that way? So the first thing that they do, I think, is they're not too brutal with how they apply force. And there's a big change in how you want to move the boat when you go from, rate 24, rate 26, rate 22, whatever it is, up to rate 36, 38. There's actually, I was speaking to a Yale rower who was in the GB team, and he was coached by Steve Gladstone. This is something I've heard Steve Gladstone speak a lot about. And for those who don't know, Steve is one of the best coaches, I think, of all time, but definitely one of the best collegiate coaches. He talks about driving light and not trying to load up and really work the oar. And the Yale rower said that Steve would always say, beware of the oarsman that looks for work, for they will find it. So a lot of the time we just think force, physicality, that's what's going to move the boat. And of course, fitness, you need that, but there's kind of a different way that you can go about doing it. And when you do this right, it's something I learned towards the end of my career as well. When you feel like you're pushing light at these higher rates, you row more relaxed, you push more efficiently, you move the boat better, and because you're so loose, and when you become more focused, and I don't know how to describe it, but you're just able to work harder without being too physical. And this is something that the Dutch women's quad does really well, something that the Dutch men's quad and all of the Dutch teams seem to do, and a lot of other really good crews, but just they look really effortless because it is effortless, Well, I mean, not literally effortless. I'm sure they're still at 199 beats per minute here, but they've just played around with this idea of just pushing a little bit less. And when you do that, you will naturally find that you get more work in anyways. Part of why that is because when you're more loose, I talk about this all the time, but when you are more loose, when this is relaxed, your shoulders are relaxed, your arms become relaxed, what can happen is the force is just better transferred lower through your lats, into your hips, into your legs. And taking a bit of effort off, taking one step back to take two steps forwards helps you relax more, which naturally helps you work a little bit more. And I know it's a counterintuitive thing, and it's something that you rarely hear coaches talking about. It goes against a lot of kind of coaching convention, and it's a big reason why I think you need to have been in a fast boat to know what this feels like in order that you can coach it. Steve, obviously, correct me if I'm wrong, actually. Maybe it's not the best example because I don't think he was ever like an elite oarsman, but in the comments, correct me if I'm wrong and be happily corrected on that one. To why they are able to row so loose, be so patient, and make it look so easy. It comes down to one starting point for me, and that is how they take the blades out of the water. So I think they are very short at the back, very, very short at the back here. They pop the blades out very, very early. There's the Polish men's squad that does this. They probably take the blades out earlier. And I think the Dutch men's squad do this. They do this more so than the Dutch men's squad do, if you ask me. But what this does is, I'm jumping around a lot here. But when they come to the finish, they are so still, they are so relaxed, they are so loose, they sit so strong. And part of why they can do that is because they're cutting the finish off early. And when you do that, if you biomechanically, it's still better to pull through to about this kind of an angle here, where you have roughly about a one and a half fist widths between your hands. It's roughly about a 45-degree angle that you want to hit at the back. Again, this partially comes down to playing around. If I was to take a quad and just have a generic approach with how to coach them, I would say don't row like this at the finish. But this is something where you can play around with it. And because they're short in the front here, they may lose a bit of connection through the back, but it allows them to be so still with how they take the blades out here. If we just look at the body coming into the finish here, so still. If we look at the whole crew, the blades pop up and pop out and nothing else really moves, apart from obviously when they go away with the hands. And because they do that so easily and so effortlessly, they just set up a really still, they're so loose. The whole crew, you can feel it when you get this right. The whole crew is just in time. And when you're in time at the finish and you relax and sitting tall at the finish, it just makes flowing forward so much easier. So how can you do this? A drill I like, it's kind of that we get our athletes to do all the time as well, is the tapping progression, sitting at the finish. So sit here with the boat still, or in a sweet boat, I guess, or whatever. Sit here, blades squared and buried, and just start off by tapping up and down with the hands. You probably find you tip one way, tip the other way, hold on, can you hear me? Find that center point and get yourself nice and even. And as you do this, watch you're not dipping anything with the chest, you're keeping super still here. Then the next progression is tap down, feather the blade, and hold the hands down. So it would look like tap, feather, hold, and just reset. Do that again. And then the final stage of the progression, tap, feather, arms away. And again, this is all while keeping the boat still. And just try and ingrain this motion, tap, feather, away, into your mind so that when the boat's moving underneath you, you do the same motion. Again, we're looking for stillness. So many different techniques here. This crew as an example, but one thing all the best crews do is they're still at the back, they're still at the front. Anyways, so you can see they also do this with looseness. And again, you need strength to do this. Like a lot of people, when they don't have the strength, will look at how they're able to take the blade out. And sometimes they need more forearm strength or more arm strength. And so you need to work that into your weights plan if you're struggling. But you can just see in strokes how loose they are. The blade is literally just kind of sitting in their hand. They're not even really like holding it with their fingers, just super loose. You want to think about the oar as like an ice cream cone. You don't want to break the oar. You don't want to break the cone. You also don't want to drop it. You just want to have enough control so that you can take it out squared, feathered. Another thing I like here that they do is you can see there's just that nice loose, simple click from the square. If we look at the kind of like collar, look at how it just pops out nicely. You can see there's that nice flick. And a lot of the time, like a collar of an oar, so when I say collar, that is like the green thing here. It's designed to sit squared. It's designed to sit feathered. When you start holding it, tensing up, that's when it gets difficult. The more loose you are, the more you'll be able to feel that kind of loose click popping out there. So that was like when I was racing, 2 things I would look for is that click feeling there. And if I did that, it meant I was taking the blade out square and feathering it loosely. And then that click feeling going forward as well, which they do pretty nicely here. You can just see there's a nice sort of like click right before they put in the blade into the water. So again, to kind of quickly recap, I still think it's better to pull through a little bit more. The bow seat in this boat, she barely gets her hands past the overlap. I don't even think she does at all. But maybe if you're struggling at the finish in your crew, especially these faster boats, if you play around with kind of shortening off the back a little bit, maybe that might help you find a little bit more looseness. This is more likely to work for the bigger boats, singles less so. But again, you can have different approaches for different people. So this is why they are able to row so loosely, so nicely coming to the catch, so calmly. Just interesting to go into kind of some of the areas that I think they don't necessarily do well. And this is the part of the video where people always get pissed off. But obviously they're a very, very good crew. Not trying to criticize. Well, I am criticizing them, but anyways, I think you get what I mean here. Where is the video? I think it's the side-on shots that I wanted. So obviously the start is probably the easiest point to criticize your technique. If you want to see what the weaknesses in your stroke are, go to the start and look at footage, look at what you do there. And really good rowing is about pushing yourself hard, rowing really well, but it's also about rowing really well when you're pushing yourself hard. You need to do both. One of my simplest race pieces of advice are find 1 or 2 things you can do to work hard, find 1 or 2 things that you can do to row well, and focus on rowing well and rowing hard, and you're going to go quick. Anyways, to the side-on shot here. So note, bearing in mind, we are off the start. And again, if we went back to this World Cup footage, they don't have the same kind of traits here. Nice glass, nice lane to stay in. No one going to crash into them. Not having to row under any trees or deal with any launches. But in this video, it's maybe just highlights the kind of areas of their rowing that could be better, arguably. First one is the catch. I think some of this crew kind of lunge right before the catch. Not perfect like that. Friggin' gate's right in the way. Let's get another shot here. Stroke seat especially. If we look at their body angle, how far the shoulders are in front of the hips, that changes right before the catch there. You can see there's a slight dip with the bodies there. The shoulders go down slightly. If we just look at that chest angle, it just changes slightly. They kind of bend their arms, and what happens is the blades just kind of go up like that rather than just keeping them straight, dropping them directly in. Now, the whole crew does this, and you can see as they go on in the race, sometimes they hit choppy water, sometimes they're steering. Again, these are all the things that just kind of highlight the flaws of the crew, you could say. Again, maybe a criticism for me, again, we just literally talked about the benefits, is it just is very, very short at the finish here. But again, we kind of went over that. And then the way they hold their handles, I don't think is actually that much of a criticism. So long as you've rigged the boat to suit you, I don't really think it makes sense. All like stroke seat, you can see, for example, all that orange part of the handle, you can just change the way that you rig the boat. So everybody's oars will likely be slightly different. If this person just prefers to hold the handle like that, then all you need to do is just make this inboard slightly longer. So, it might be 88 centimeters from the outside of the hand to the oarlock. And it might be from this person's hand to the oarlock 88 centimeters, but both of these overall oar inboards could be longer. Or sorry, it could be different. So again, I'm not entirely against it. So long as you've adjusted the rig appropriately. But yeah, apart from that, like, it was interesting because when I really slowed this crew down, I saw a lot more flaws. And it's like when I looked at that Rutgers crew, for example, that raced at that raced Henley, they looked worse compared to when I slowed them down. This crew looked the Rutgers crew didn't look as good as he did at normal speed compared to slow motion. This Dutch crew looked better at normal speed compared to slow motion, if that even friggin' makes sense. But anyways, I'll probably stop talking here. I'm already talking shit. If you made it this far in the video, oh no, I already did glasses last time. Comment cloth. That's for cleaning my glasses. I get very anal about having no specks of schmudge on my glasses, so I'm constantly doing this. Anyways, if you guys like this video, let me know. If you've got any other crews you want me to do, let me know. I've got the Sinkovich brothers in there and then I've got the Kiwi 8 lined up as well. But anyways, right, bye everybody.